Hi, I'm Doug Dormer, and this is the Abatement Information Masterclass, establishing the criterion standard for opioid settlement funding and avoiding the tobacco failure. This is Lesson 3, the research mandate. How do we know what we learned from that $57 billion and how it affects care? What does research actually mean in the trenches? At the highest level, the evidence is itself the currency of abatement. There's a myth that research is for ivory towers and academic journals. Certainly it's true that's where most research is conducted, but it doesn't have to be. The reality is that research is simply organized observation. Now, paying due respect to my scientist friends and researchers, that organized observation can be really sophisticated and does indeed require specialized skills. But that doesn't mean that the rest of us, those who are providing services in the street, can't participate in research in meaningful ways. Which lead to what we're seeing broadly in healthcare today over the last 10 years is the emergence of a learning health system. Instead of discrete studies, one at a time in a controlled environment, really we're looking at using technology to integrate the experience of all patients and all providers and all consumers into a unified engine that turns data into community health intelligence. The criterion standard that we're talking about here today is what is expected by the Opioid Settlement Agreement. It doesn't ask you to be a scientist. It asks you to be a witness under the assumption that you can have certain key skills either through the technology or through collaboration. We note that research often feels impossible today for many community providers. We begin by noting the EMR trap. Most EMR software, EHR software, was built primarily for billing compliance, not for research or on things like abatement and the impact of abatement interventions. The staffing wall. Most organizations don't have sufficient research staff capacity. Some organizations don't have the expertise. Some have the expertise, but not the bandwidth. The IRB enigma. For much research, you need an institutional review board to validate that your study is ethical and protected. That's a stretch if you're doing it as a one-off by yourself. But as a part of a community, we think that should be a goal, to have a community of participants where where you can pull together the people you need to create an institutional review board to provide that level of exceptionalism, of quality to your research reporting. The result, though, today is that most hospitals don't have time, and non-hospital community health service providers remain on the outside of the healthcare IT ecosystem. A couple other thoughts. There is a certain data ownership tug of war that we have to watch out for. The problem is that hospitals think they own the data. The police think they own the data. The nonprofit is scared to share any of its data. The vision, then, is that we need to have a neutral data trust somewhere so that the mission owns the insight, or at least has access to the insight, and it's not isolated in discrete silos that are often competitive with each other. Standardization. My gosh. You can't aggregate disparate kinds of information into meaningful information. The vision, you need a common data language, and you need a data normalization feature or utility that translates that trend work into meaningful trend lines. And then we have the notion of the sustained recovery ghost. The problem is that most research only tracks treatment for a limited period of time. 18 months, perhaps is common, perhaps 2 years. But the settlement is for an abatement that runs 15 to 18 years. So we need a way to track how a person evolves over 18 years. That's the notion of longitudinal study. And so we need an identity management tool that follows the individual, not just the medical record, as they evolve through that entire term. So what we see happening to become a star in this settlement universe is moving from a contractual steward to authority. The power shift, when you produce a portfolio of evidence, you're not just asking and spending money. You are starting to direct the strategy. Then you also achieve an auditability shield. Both the government entities and the providers who can meet this criterion standard have a fidelity insurance policy to protect them against audit or questioning over time. And the legacy, of course, is that by documenting your experience, including your success, you aren't just meeting a contract, you are setting the national benchmark for what sustained recovery actually looks like. So what's the takeaway on this research topic? If you can't measure abatement, you aren't managing a settlement. You're just witnessing what may be an unfolding tragedy. The research mandate is not a bureaucratic hurdle. It is your opportunity to prove that your piece of the $57 billion changed the trajectory in your community. You don't need to be an academic. You just need to be evidence ready and to have the tools to support you on that journey. Once again, here is the QR code and the link to our survey. We hope you'll take it. We've got 2 more lessons left, so whether it's now or after we see the last 2 lessons, we hope we can count on you to participate in this important survey. Thanks for watching this video. Please return for Masterclass Lesson 4, Integrating the Community, Bridging Community Service Providers with Traditional Healthcare Providers to Create a True Learning Health System.